Hi, I'm Andy and welcome to a Watch Crave video. In this video, we will be having a look at the Steel Dive SD 1970. The watch itself is a heavy homage of a Seiko diver, dubbed the Captain Willard, released way back in the 1976. This watch became quite sought after, probably thanks to being worn in a popular movie. Seiko re-released the watch a few years ago in 2020 under its Prospect line. The re-released version is priced at around $1,000 and the vintage version is several times that. This Steel Dive is merely a fraction of that price. Now, being a guy with a small wrist, big watches are rarely on my radar. A case diameter of 42mm is usually my cutoff point. With this watch diameter measuring at 44mm, I wasn't interested in getting this until I saw that the lug-to-lug is only 47mm. When I saw this at a discounted price in the AliExpress sales, I couldn't resist and pulled the trigger. The watch usually retails at around $80 to $100, but I got it for well below that range during the sales. It can be bought in 3 different colors, black, blue, and green, and with either a rubber strap or a steel bracelet. In terms of packaging, it's pretty simple. There's a Pelican case, a guarantee card, user manual, and bracelet resizing tools. Moving on to the specs. The diameter is a whopping 43.8mm. It is 13.5mm thick and has a lug width of 20mm. The lug-to-lug is 46.8mm. The watch glass is a box flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating. The water resistant rating is 200 meters. As with most AliExpress watches, you should take this rating with a grain of salt. However, I have read on forums that many have had success with taking this watch underwater without any issue. Sized down for my 6.2 inch wrist, it weighs in at a whopping 168 grams. Finally, it's running with the ever reliable NH35 movement. The NH35 is an automatic movement that beats at 21,600 beats per hour. The movement supports hacking and hand winding. It has a power reserve of 41 hours, and the out-of-the-box accuracy rating is plus 40 to minus 20 seconds per day. I'm not sure if Steel Dive regulates their movement or not, but this particular watch is running at plus 11 seconds per day. Considering the NH35 has an out-of-the-box rating of plus 40 and minus 20 seconds per day, plus 11 seconds is an acceptable accuracy rating in my book. Moving on to the design of the watch. The watch sports a pretty unique case shape, often dubbed the turtle by fans. This case shape was created by Seiko and first debuted way back in 1976. Since then, it has been used by many other Seiko dive watches. The case is brush finish on top and polished on the sides. The finish is not on the level of more expensive watches, but considering it's a sub $100 watch, it's actually quite decent. Plus, I reckon it adds to the ruggedness of the watch. Onto the back of the case, it is brush finish, and there's a screw down case back with some text and a massive logo engraved. It's nothing special, but it does the job. The crown is screwed down and decorated with the Steel Dive logo. It sits at the 4 o'clock position instead of the usual 3 o'clock. It is smooth and easy to unscrew. However, it can be a struggle to screw it back in. This is not because of the crown itself, but more so because of the massive lug guard. Above the crown, you've got a coin edge bezel. It's a unidirectional rotating bezel, 120 clicks. I do find the bezel a bit hard to operate as it is very tight. The bezel insert is supposedly made of ceramics and is actually fully loomed with BGW9, which is quite amazing for a watch at this price point. For the bracelet, I chose the steel bracelet option instead of the rubber strap. The steel bracelet is actually pretty alright in my opinion. It's brush finish on top and polished on the sides. It starts at 20mm at the lug and taper down to 18mm. Surprisingly, all links, including the end links, are solid. However, the links are held together by pins instead of screws. It's also quite loose and does feel a bit cheap. Still, it's acceptable at this price point. The bracelet is connected to a milk clasp. It's a push-pin clasp with a safety latch, and it's fairly easy to operate. The top of the clasp is decorated with the logo and the brand name. There are also a whopping 6 micro adjustment slots, so you shouldn't have any problem getting the right fit. Next up is the dial. It's a simple flat dial. There's the Still Dive logo printed below the 12 o'clock, the automatic text and water rating printed above the 6 o'clock. You also have a white date window at the 3 o'clock position. At the edge of the dial, you have a printed minute marker ring and a black unprinted chapter ring to act as a rehold. The indices are fairly big and apply, and they are filled with C3 looms. The hands are also pretty simple, except for the second hand that has this small red dot. Both indices and hands are finished to an acceptable degree, but could be improved in my opinion. On a positive note, the dial is extremely legible thanks to all of these elements. Onto the loom. One thing that I'm a bit disappointed with is that the bezel loom and the dial loom do not match. However, they are bright and last for quite a while. Overall pretty good if you consider the low price of this watch. Now, as I've mentioned before, I have a small wrist and prefer smaller watches. So I kinda bought this watch on impulse due to the low price during the sales. Despite the big diameter of 44mm, the watch fits nicely on my wrist thanks to the short lug-to-lug length of 47mm and the female end links. It actually fits better than some other watches with smaller diameter. Also, despite the watch being heavier, it's surprisingly comfortable since the weight is distributed evenly. I wore this for a whole week and had no discomfort whatsoever. So, what is my verdict for this watch? Well, the biggest thing this watch has as its advantage is the price. At under $100, it's hard to find another watch with similar specifications. That is, if you don't count all the other turtle horn watches around. Then you have the iconic Seiko turtle design, the reliable NH35 movement, a really legible dial, and full loom on the bezel. I had initially thought that the watch would be too big for my wrist, but somehow ended up liking it a lot. To others, it's probably still too big and ridiculous for my small wrist, but I like it. In terms of cons, there are definitely a few. There's a stiff bezel, the finishing, or should I say the lack of finishings, on the case and hand, the different loom colors of the bezel and the dial, the bracelet is ratchety and could use a better finish. All of this kind of makes sense, since some corners will have to be cut to achieve the low price. Despite these negatives, I still think the watch provides great value at its price tag, and punches well above its weight if you can get it during a sales. And that brings us to the end of this video. What do you think about this watch? Did you get your hands on one, and how did you like or dislike it? Feel free to drop a comment down below. If you find this video enjoyable or helpful, please drop a like and subscribe for future videos. As a new channel, I really appreciate your support. Until next time.